Mr Shoebridge.
MPs in New South Wales will have recently received a document entitled Sexual Abuse, the Response of the Archdiocese of Sydney. This 16-page booklet was also distributed to a number of victim support groups, many of whom contacted my office to outline their substantial disagreement with the materials in this booklet. The booklet shows that the Church is concerned at the growing level of community disquiet about how the Church has dealt with the many children and young people sexually abused while in its care. If you read the booklet from cover to cover, you could think that there were no problems of ongoing concern or ongoing concerns about the Church's treatment of victims of sexual abuse. However, the claims made by the Church are far from the truth. I wish to put on the record just some of the responses my office has received to this booklet from survivors of abuse and victims' organisations. One observation was that the entire document is skewed towards protecting the power and wealth of the Church, end of story. Another said the response completely overlooks the Ellis defence. That's the defence which allows the Church to avoid legal liability for civil claims. Others compared the booklet to a work of fiction, forming another part of the avalanche of Church PR which consistently fails to reflect the actual experience of victims. This view is perhaps best summed up by one comment that reads, "Unfortunately, this document must be seen in the light of a statement of, at best, possible future intent, not as a representation of anything that has actually happened or based on international experience. It's likely to happen in the near future, unless the Church is forced to do so by lawmakers." The booklet says that for the Church, the victims of sexual abuse are our first priority. Sadly, this is far from the experience of many victims. One victim advised my office that throughout the Towards Healing process, phone calls remained unanswered. I had to wait for up to 8 weeks to make an appointment. I was told at some point I need to start taking some of the responsibility myself, and further abhorrent, abusive things. The investigation was held up for much time due to the priest being permitted to take overseas trips to play golf. The investigation went on for 2.5 years until my health completely failed and I could no longer go on. This is not putting victims first. The Church's booklet identifies the establishment of Towards Healing in 1996 as being the appropriate response to victims. However, victims have identified it as a harm minimisation tool, and a cynical one at that. Dr Jodie Deeth, a lecturer at the QUT School of Justice, is undertaking a detailed study of the Towards Healing process. She advises that her preliminary analysis is that survivors are reporting that the processes associated with Towards Healing are re-victimising and re-traumatising. What we're hearing is that survivors are not having their needs met through Towards Healing. As one survivor of abuse said, it is illustrative that Towards Healing materials were initially produced by the Church's insurers, Catholic Church Insurance Limited, lawyers and members of the Church, and an appointed committee called the National Committee for Professional Standards. The Church is now saying that sexual abuse is a crime which must be reported to the police and is best investigated by police, not the Church. However, as one respondent noted, to date in the Towards Healing process, the Church officials and Church-appointed investigators have investigated reports of sexual abuse and assault. A further key principle the Church claims it adheres to is that there will be no protection of abusers and no cover-ups. This does not accord with the Church's behaviour to date. As one survivor advised my office, there have been scores of reports of abuse being covered up. Currently, there's an investigation of 3 senior priests who knew of abuse but failed to report it, in the case of Father F. If there have been no cover-ups or protection of abusers, there should be reports from the Church available that show that the Catholic Church has reported sexual abuse. Where are these reports? And I note that the Father F investigation is an internal investigation by the Church, not one being conducted by the police. Another victim took issue with the booklet's claim that no victim is silenced in return for any financial support under Towards Healing. This is their response. This is a blatant lie, as I was made to sign a document which silenced me, and every other victim I know has had to do this as well. What is clear to me from this document and other communications I've received and read from the Church is that this organisation continues to deny its past and continuing failings of victims and their families. This is one of the many reasons to call for a Royal Commission into abuse in religious and non-religious organisations in New South Wales. The community clearly feels that the Church has failed and continues to fail to deal with the reality of abuse amongst its ranks. A Royal Commission would make it possible to get to the heart of these matters. It can uncover the true extent of past abuse and any organisational failures that the Church or other organisations failed to bring to the attention of the police. It will allow the Church an open process through which it can publicly and openly address its past failings, while giving victims a voice without being forced through the criminal courts. Equally importantly, it can ensure that best practice processes and procedures are urgently implemented in the Church and any other organisation that has the care and responsibility of looking after our precious children.
Madam Deputy President.